shooter, what happened, the fact it was a single bullet, the way he was able to put together his gun, dismantle his gun, get away, and so on. The weird text messaging with his transitioning boyfriend and so on. What do you make of it all? Do you think there are unanswered questions with it? Does it make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely there are unanswered questions. It doesn't make sense to me completely, and I think that's why there are conspiracy theories that are popping up around the shooting. The problem is that, like so much of what happens in the real world, there are areas that are protected, areas of information that are not available to the public, so the public doesn't get a full picture. You were just talking about the emergence of new media. Part of the unexpected or possibly unproductive side effect of that new media is that we now know more of what we don't.
And that changed everything. A former CIA agent went on television and said something that genuinely shook me. After reviewing all the data surrounding Charlie Kirk's death, he simply stated, "Nothing really adds up." When he was asked whether a single person could have been behind it all, he replied bluntly, "Theoretically, yes. Practically, almost impossible." And that was the moment when people began to pay attention. This wasn't some random online theory. This was coming from someone who had spent years studying how real covert operations work. And he wasn't alone. A former Special Forces operator, someone who had been part of one of the most high-profile missions in modern history, began raising the same concerns. More than 70 days had passed since the Charlie Kirk incident at UC Berkeley. Officially, the case was wrapped up almost instantly. Investigators claimed a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson acted alone. Within just 33 hours, he was identified, tracked down, and arrested, thanks to a relative's tip. It sounded neat. Too neat. So neat that people started questioning if things were moving faster than they realistically should. And now, not just one, but several former agents, Special Forces veterans, and military analysts are stepping forward, each pointing to the same issue. The official story doesn't fully add up. Let me be clear. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm simply showing you what seasoned professionals, people trained at the highest levels, are asking. And honestly, when you hear their analysis, it becomes very difficult to ignore. In this video, you'll hear why a former intelligence officer believes the incident carries the hallmarks of a professional operation. You'll see why a decorated Special Forces member says certain details just don't line up. And you'll understand why so many unusual elements are being quietly ignored. By the time you're done, you'll see why more and more people are asking questions that, oddly enough, no one in the agency is willing to answer out loud. So let's get started. Before diving into the specifics, I won't rehash Charlie Kirk's entire story. Most people already know that part. Instead, let's focus on the official version. A young man named Tyler Robinson, allegedly acting alone with an old family rifle, was named as the sole culprit. The case was declared solved in just 33 hours. No follow-up, no further investigation. But many people simply don't buy that. And when you hear what comes next, you might understand why. To explain this clearly, we need to talk about someone important, Andrew Bambone. This is not a TV commentator or an armchair analyst. This is a former CIA covert intelligence officer, someone who understands how real operations are planned, executed, and covered up. And when he appeared on Piers Morgan's show, his words raised more than a few eyebrows across the security world.
Technical point of view about the shooting itself. A 22-year-old is not military trained to be able to get up on that roof, put together a gun, then dismantle it, fire off one shot with a bolt-action rifle that belonged to his grandfather, reportedly, and get away. But to be able to assassinate someone in that clinical manner, does that seem likely, or is there something we don't know about what this kid was doing before?
We look at everything in intelligence through a lens of probability. Anything is a possibility, but what are the probabilities that it played out the way that we're being told? So when I think of his age, and I think about the fact that he grew up in a hunting family, and I think about the fact that he was familiar with that particular weapon, he was familiar with the campus. He had what we call the advantage of area familiarity, area family. He had all of those benefits that Charlie and Charlie's team did not have. Plus, of course, he had the element of surprise on his side. But when it comes to the technical elements of being able to handle that weapon, I tend to agree more with Rob. It doesn't make sense. How, unless he spent hours in premeditation.
Unsettling for many is the complete information blackout that has persisted since September 19th. Think about it. The incident was covered by international media every hour of every day, yet no meaningful updates have surfaced. No in-depth investigations, no clear explanations of the cause, no new insights into what actually happened. That's exactly why Andrew Bustamante, who has spent an entire career navigating complex intelligence cases, called this deeply unusual. He raised a critical question: why has an event that captured national attention suddenly fallen into total silence? Why haven't key data points been updated? And if the official story is truly that simple, why the long silence? But it was the footage that disturbed him most. He asked viewers to imagine this scenario. A 22-year-old with zero military training climbs onto a rooftop, assembles an old rifle, takes a single shot with pinpoint precision, then disarms himself and leaves the area before anyone even notices. It might sound possible in theory, but for anyone with real military experience, that sequence requires a level of focus, discipline, and tactical training that simply doesn't align with the official narrative. Bustamante explained it clearly. In intelligence, everything is judged by probability. Can it be done? Yes. But can it be done exactly the way the story claims it happened? The odds are extremely low, especially on a busy school campus. And then something even more unexpected happened. As soon as Bustamante raised his concerns, another major figure stepped forward, Rob O'Neill, a former Special Forces operator who took part in one of the most well-known missions in modern history. When O'Neill reviewed the footage, his response stunned the entire studio. He didn't claim anyone was right or wrong. He didn't offer a verdict. Instead, he asked questions that experts...
That horrific video, he was obviously dead before he hit the ground, but the questions immediately started to come to me. That was not an entry wound that we saw. We saw an exit wound. So where'd that bullet come from? You don't bleed like, and I've shot guys closer than the camera was. And an entry wound doesn't look like that. An exit wound does. Why did his shirt move the way it did? When I've shot people, their shirts didn't move like that. And then the initial reaction was, well, he was obviously wearing body armor and it was deflection. One, no. He wasn't wearing body armor. And two, it doesn't deflect like that off of body armor. Why was his shirt moving from right to left? Why were people being interviewed saying, yeah, they came from my left to right, from his right to left, immediately shut down? And then did they tear the crime scene down immediately? They, just right off the bat, from seeing it, knowing he was dead, saying a lot of this is bad, not even getting into the soliloquy of text messages that 22-year-olds don't send their trans lover. If you were doing that with all your training, you were one of the most elite guys in special forces in American history. If you were dismantling this precise right...
Bustamante and O'Neill have in common? They don't jump to conclusions. They highlight unanswered questions. They point out inconsistencies, missing details, and a sequence of events that doesn't align with what an inexperienced person could realistically pull off. And when professionals with decades of security experience all say something doesn't add up, the public has every right to start asking questions. One thing becomes clear the more you look into it. Everything about this feels too neat, too polished, almost unnaturally perfect. When two experts from opposite ends of the security world, a former CIA officer and a former elite special forces operator, reach the same assessment, it becomes difficult to dismiss their concerns as coincidence. But then there's another detail Bustamante raised, one that makes anyone paying attention stop and think. The alleged perpetrator has almost no digital footprint. In 2024, that's nearly impossible. Bustamante was direct. In any major case, the suspect usually leaves some kind of online trace, old posts, a forgotten account, leaked content, even a random comment from years ago. No one grows up completely invisible on the internet. So why is this 22-year-old, someone who grew up in the heart of the digital age, almost non-existent online? No Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok, no Reddit, nothing. Even the most private people leave a trace, but here it's as if everything was wiped clean. And for those familiar with intelligence work, this level of invisibility isn't normal. It's intentional. It's not a sign of privacy. It's a sign of deliberate concealment.
Point of view, when you encounter that, where someone tries to assassinate the President of the United States or a very high-profile figure, and when you dig into it, for a young person to have no digital footprint whatsoever, that to me is very, very odd.
Absolutely. There's hidden information there, without a doubt. It's funny, my mind worked very similar to yours, Peter. When I started to research the elements that made up the Charlie Kirk assassination, I immediately was triggered to look back at Thomas Crooks, the one who tried to kill Donald Trump when he was on the campaign in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The parallels are very, very powerful, very humbling, right? You're talking about similar age groups. You're talking about high levels of intelligence. You're talking about a level of emotional IQ that made them actually well-liked in their community.